Hey ho, that's the British weather for you. Okay, let's start. Letikaben, are you there?
Yes, namaste.
Namaste. Can you start with prayers, please?
Om Bhur Swaha Tasya Viturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Bhur Swaha Tasya Viturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Bhurbhuvasvaha Tasya Viturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Let us meditate on the glorious effulgence of that Supreme Being who has created the universe. May she enlighten our hearts and direct our understanding. Om, peace, peace, peace. Okay, so we move on to the next two reformers, the last two, which is Gandhi. I don't know why people call him a reformer. If it was down to me, I would call him a traitor. But hey ho, that's me. But yeah, over to you, Anjali man. Hit us.
And people today that India celebrates the Republic Day. So we get started on today's Mahatma Gandhi. Yes. Okay, can you see?
Yes. No, so the screen's gone blank at the moment.
Okay, let's see.
We did earlier on before you started that's it. Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, his concept of truth and non-violence. The syllabus content we need to cover his early life, marriage, family, influences that shaped his principles during his stay overseas, his unflinching faith in God, and his attitude towards religion, and his efforts to improve conditions for poor and powerless. Gandhi. So Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, he was born in October the 2nd, 1869 in Porbandar, a coastal town in present-day Gujarat. His father was Karamchand Gandhi. He lived from 1822 to 1885. And he belonged to the Hindu mode community and was a Divan Prime Minister of the Potamba state. Gandhi came from one of the second highest caste in the Hindu society. So hence his caste linkage, yeah, of awareness. So as a youth, in about 15 years, he had his schooling in a nearby Rajkot, where his father served as the advisor or prime minister to the local ruler. And in May 1883, the 13-year-old Mohandas was married to 14-year-old Kastubai. They had an arranged marriage, and hence his influence on child marriage, and because that was the custom on the region. In 1885, that's when Gandhi was 15, the couple firstborn child had the firstborn, but he only survived a few days. They went on to have 4 children. Later teens, when on the 4th of September 1888, less than a month shy of his 19th birthday, Gandhi traveled to London, England, to study law at University College, London. And there he trained as a barrister. In his time in London, the imperial capital was influenced by the vow he had made to his mother in the presence of a Jain monk, Bicharji. Upon leaving India to observe, he must abstain from meat, alcohol, and promiscuity. So that was the promise he made to his mother before leaving India. So the early years in London between 1888 and 1891, Gandhi experimented in adopting the English customs, like taking dancing classes. But he couldn't stomach the bland food, vegetarian food, until he found a vegetarian restaurant. And he later became to join the Vegetarian Society, where he was elected the executive committee as an elective committee. He also founded in the 1875, there was a Theosophical Society formed. He joined that, and he was started to study Buddhist and Hindu literature. And they encouraged Gandhi to read the Bhagavad Gita and translate it, as well as in its original form. Gandhi didn't have any particular interest in religion before, but he became interested in religious thought and began to read both the Hindu and Christian scriptures. So around this time, he also studied the Bible, and the main focus what influenced him was the sermon, Jesus on the Mount. And the teachings of Jesus Christ, emphasis on humility and forgiveness. He remained committed to the Bible and Bhagavad Gita throughout his life, even though he was critical on a certain aspect of both religions, and he was acquainted with religious book and Islam and Prophet Muhammad. Later years, he will go on and sought inspiration from the different religions, Jainism, Islam. So in Jainism, Ahimsa was one of the main themes that he would later go on to develop in his own self, yeah? And he incorporated in his own philosophy. On several occasions, he used religious practice and fasting as part of political purge. So Gandhi felt personal example could be the opinion, and that's what he chose as part of his philosophy. Attempting to establish a career in India, so he attempted to study law. When he, after qualifying as a barrister, came to India, tried to establish a law practice, but it failed in Mumbai. And he failed to get a part-time job, so he returned to Rajkot, and then he came across someone who said, there is in South Africa, there is a year-long contract from Dada Abdullah and Company. Here was where Gandhi decided he was going to go, and he went to South Africa. So some of Gandhi's main contribution included the idea of Sat. Yeah, being. It's the concept of Sat, which is being Atmas. Satya, truth, as a way to reach this God, infinite God. And he defined Satya as absolute truth, the truth of being expressing itself in all living things. And Ahimsa as unifying the faculty of welfare for all, not harming any living thing, but having love for all. Satyagraha, the idea of insistence on truth, holding firm truth is the practical expression of Satyagraha. Satyagraha is gentle, never wounds. It is not a result of malice or anger. So these are the terminology that we will explore now as Gandhi went to South Africa. So in South Africa, Gandhi faced discrimination directed by Indians. He was thrown off a train for refusing to move from the first class to the third class. even though he was holding a valid first-class ticket. Traveling further on a stagecoach, he was beaten by a driver for refusing to travel on the footboard to make room for European passengers. These events were the turning point in his life, awakening him a social injustice and influenced his subsequent social activism. So in spring 1984, Gandhi elected to stay because his contract was for a year. He elected to stay in South Africa, and here he found the Natal Indian Congress opposed the South African government legislation. In 1896, he returned to South Africa with his family. Gandhi returns in 1901 to India to attend the Indian National Congress, and G.K. Gokhale introduced him to the nationalist leaders. 1902, he returns to South Africa at the request of the Indian community. And here we have Gandhi during this time struggling towards brahmacharya or celibacy, and finally becoming celibate in 1906. In 1906, his first satyagraha campaign in protest of the proposed Asiatic ordinance directed against the Indian immigrants in Transvaal region, I hope I'm pronouncing correct, led to his arrest. In 1807, he organized a second satyagraha against compulsory registration, and in 1909, Gandhi travels to London pushing for rights for South African Indians, and the law was repealed. So Gandhi was struck by the level of racial and discrimination and injustice often experienced by Indians. And here he started to his first experimenting with campaigns that he started with the civil disobedience and protest. His philosophy of truth focus, non-violent, non-cooperation, which, as he said, satyagraha, translated as civil disobedience and non-cooperation, was a potent final weapon it holds is fasting unto death. He used this idea many times to get unity with the Hindu movement. And despite being imprisoned for short periods of time, he supported the British under certain conditions to promote harmony with Europeans. He campaigned for equal treatment for all ethnic groups, and he was actually decorated by the British for his effort in the Boer War and Zulu Rebellion. In 1913, Indians in the Natal and Transvaal under Gandhi leadership marched to protest of a racist tax and marriage law, and that was his third satyagraha. In 1914, Gandhi and the Smuts, the Prime Minister of the Transvaal, reached agreement ending the protests. And then Gandhi sailed in July 1914 to England, and then he went his struggle to India. So he returned to India in 1915 from South Africa to live. He spoke at conventions of the Indian National Congress, but was primarily introduced to Indian issues, politics, and Indian people by Gopal Krishna Gokhale, a respected leader of the Congress party at the time. People started to address him as Mahatma, and he received a hero's welcome. And Gandhi and his followers founded Satyagraha Ashram, a religious-oriented communal farm where his family and followers lived. He takes leadership role preaching to a group of people and interacting with his followers. And his home rule, or Swaraj, which has successfully instigated a series of nonviolent protests. This included national strikes for 1 or 2 days. The British sought to ban opposition, but the nature of non-violent protests and strikes made it difficult to counter Gandhi, and he encouraged his followers to practice inner discipline to get ready for independence. So as Gandhi struggled, but what happened also in Punjab, there was the Jallianwala Bagh massacre of civilians by the British troops. That was known as the Amritsar massacre, caused deep trauma to the nation, leading increased public anger and acts of violence. Gandhi criticized both the actions of the British Raj and the violence of the Indians, and he was arrested. He continued his non-violent protests through hunger and strikes. In today's society, one will question whether non-violence is to continue. He continued with the spinning wheel as a national necessity, protested against taxes on cloth, and protest by spinning cotton and making his own clothes. He lived an austere life. He believed in self-discipline, brahmacharya, celibate life in search of truth. He promoted the ideas of Swadeshi, insistence on using local products, supporting local people, not imported products, supporting foreign powers. And then in 1917, he continued his satyagraha for the 4th time, campaign for the peasants on the indigo plantation in Champaran, North Bihar, his ashram to the bank of the river. 5th Satyagraha was a campaign of peasants for the high taxes levied by the British, and not to resort to violence. He did not touch food, and he achieved its end and vowed not to take medicine. In 1919, because of the anger of links to Bill's civil discipline, March 18th, the Black Bills was law. Importance of sacrifice published. The Amritsar massacre under General Dyer, British troops slaughtered. So all these, Gandhi suspended satyagraha. He was called to London again, and Gandhi had now become internationally known. So the British government could not afford to have him harmed or have him die under arrest. And this included dying under self-imposed hunger strike. So he became respected world figure without ever doing anything violent. The British couldn't ignore him, so they had to talk to him. In 1930, Gandhi led the famous March to the Sea in protest of the new Salt Acts. So it was a 240 march, and he picked a pinch of salt in symbolic defiance of the government monopoly. Many hundreds, I think it was about 60,000 people were arrested and in Indian jails, and were full of Indian independence followers. The act of standing against injustice, a grain of salt, can make a difference, reshape the future, and unite the nation. Ahimsa, fighting for the injustice against the British rule. Many Hindus believe that act non-violently, ahimsa, is the best course of action wherever possible. But some Hindus would say the violence is acceptable if it is used to uphold important Hindu religious values. Gandhi frequently called off strikes and non-violent protests if he heard people were rioting or violence was involved. However, while his campaign was at its peak, some Indian protesters killed some British civilians, and as a result, Gandhi called off the independence movement, saying that India was not ready. This broke the heart of many Indians committed to independence and led to radicals like Bhagat Singh carry on campaign for independence, which was particularly strong in Bengal. So we move on to Gandhi and the work with Nehru to prepare for independence. So Gandhiji and Nehru, they were continued serious discussions in attaining independence. And then Gandhiji with the Muslim leader, Jinnah. They started to work together to get the plan, and Britain indicated that they would give India independence. However, with the support of the Muslim led by Jinnah, the British planned to partition India into two, India and Pakistan. Gandhi was opposed to the partition, and he worked vigorously to show Muslims and Hindus could live together. And at prayer meetings, Muslim prayers was read alongside Hindus and Christian prayers. Away from politics of Indian independence, Gandhi was harshly critical of the Hindu caste system. In particular, he wanted to remove the notion of an untouchable caste. He launched many campaigns to change the status of untouchables. All his campaigns were met with much resistance, did not go a long way in changing the century-old prejudices. Continue. So in 1931, Gandhi participates in a Round Table Conference in Britain and returns to India. Gandhi was arrested for dissediation and held without a trial. He fasted in prison to protest treatment of untouchables. And British rule, he continued his fast. He had another episode of where he fasts against British rule. And in 1947, India independence became official, as does the partition into two countries, India and Pakistan. Gandhi policy was detested by many. In 1948, India dissolves into chaos and killings as Hindus and Muslims flee for the borders of India and Pakistan. At the age of 78, Gandhi undertook another fast to try and prevent the sectarian killing. After 5 days, the leaders agreed to stop the killing. And Gandhi stood before Hindus asking for equal rights for the Dalits, and again facing and arguing them for equal rights for Muslims in India. But 10 days later, Gandhi was shot by the Hindu Brahmin opposed to Gandhi's support for Muslims and untouchables, and that was on the 30th of January 1948. His name was Nathuram Godse for his tolerance in the Muslim population. Gandhi, so key terms to be aware of was Sarvodaya, welfare for all, as the outcome of seeing the unity of Sat and Satya. Untouchability, caste, has nothing to do with religion. It's harmful for both spiritual and national growth. No one can be untouchables. All are sparks of the divine. He promoted rights for women. He said the country where women are not honored cannot be considered civilized, and he quoted from Manusmriti. Seva, service to mankind, was another one of Gandhi's ideals, the idea of unity between God and man as taught by Vivekananda. Swaraj, a self-rule. Why should one country rule others? Let my nation be the one to teach the world the futility of ruling over others. Gandhi was a seeker of truth. Gandhi said his aim in life was to have the vision of God. He sought to worship God and promote religious understanding. It is debatable how he used the terminology in his politics. Yeah. So Gandhi had international stature and his place in the hearts of the Indian people as the father of the nation. He was called father of India and a great soul in beggar garb. His non-violent approach to political change helped India gain independence after nearly a century of British colonial rule. Gandhi changed the face of civil disobedience around the world. Martin Luther King Jr. drew on his tactics during the civil rights movement, and Dalai Lama also was inspired by his teaching, which still heralded by those who seek to inspire change without inciting violence. Gandhi Swadeshi movement, the idea of Indians to spin their own cloth and work in simple local industry. Now, few people are following, as it's not practical to continue. Today, Gandhi restraint can look naive in today's India, confronted with terrorism. And people question whether he did enough to challenge the Indian caste system. He has also been criticized for supporting racial segregation between black and white South Africans and making derogatory remarks about black people. Although he supported women's rights in some regards, he also opposed contraception. And I will stop there and take question. Yeah, we have 3 minutes to ask any questions. Stop sharing. Any questions? It is a lot.
I think there's a slight correction there, Anjali Ben.
Yeah.
Nathuram Godse did not oppose Gandhi's opposition to the caste system. He did not oppose that. His opposition was Gandhi's support for Muslims. Yeah, at the time when Hindus were being slaughtered left, right, and center, Gandhi still supported them. That was his opposition. That is why he killed him.
Okay.
So that needs to be a slight correction. Nathuram Godse did not oppose Gandhi's opposition to the caste system.
And also there was other people who were actually involved in the opposition. There was Tilak. I think there was with Gandhi, they had differences of opinion. I didn't put it in the notes there,
No,
but
no.
in the when you're reading up, there was with Tilak, and remember we talked about Tilak before in a different part of yeah, he continued his promotion in Hinduism. There was some disagreement between them.
Gandhi opposed all the freedom fighters. He did not like them. He called Bhagat Singh a terrorist. Can you believe that? Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, who was a great freedom fighter, he opposed what. In fact, he just did not. What's the word to use? Entertain any freedom fighters' opinions. And even Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, who was part of Congress, he actually kind of shrugged him to one side. So yeah, like I say, it is my. Sorry, did somebody say something?
I entirely agree with Krishna Bhai. I've seen some of the documents which support this particular view, that Gandhi was very much so much pro-Muslim that at times he was anti-Hindu.
Yes.
As
yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And that is what led to his ultimate demise.
Yeah.
Because lots of Hindu organizations were against him. And also some new documents have come out after the release of documents from the British, that he was on the payroll of British government. At the time he was showing this particular anti-British movement.
Mm.
The Indian National Congress was actually founded by British.
Okay. Right. Can we move on now?
Yes, sure.
Hina Patel, sorry, we have Hina Patel hand is up.
Yeah, let's make a quick one. Go on,
Hi.
Hina.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Just wanted to find out if there is a question, is this pro Gandhiji or not? Because obviously it's just quite a
Both views, yeah.
debatable conversation.
So you're breaking up, Hina.
Oh, can you hear me better?
Yeah, so there could be a question pro Gandhiji or against him. So you need to give your views on if what he did good, right? And what was the support the argument and against the argument. For
See,
example, yeah,
party questions always ask you for opinion. So I'm just throwing something off the top of my head.
Yeah.
They might say Gandhi was a very popular freedom fighter. Now, for a party question, you actually give out the answers, maybe what Anjali was talked about. Then at the end, you have to also say, however, may argue that these are the points against Gandhi.
yeah.
So you do need to have points against Gandhi as well.
So like for example, Gandhi Gandhi with the world can be violent place and there's Indian need to fight fire with fire to live successfully is things like that. I mean his
Yeah, see,
choices of
you could argue that
yeah
Gandhi's idea of ahimsa was totally out of context. For
Yeah.
example, Gandhi's
And-
idea of ahimsa was total and unconditional non-violence. On the counters that you could say, but this is not what the Mahabharata is teaching us. The Mahabharata is saying is when it comes to upholding dharma, if you have to stand up and lift arms, then do so.
And
Are you with me?
Yes, and also you could say in some cases Gandhi caused this disunity in India. Yeah.
And that disunity continues today.
Yes.
Yeah.
So those are
Okay,
the
right.
Okay,
Sorry, we
then
need to
thank
move
you
on
very
now.
much.
Yeah, Hina, we can do this when we cover past papers. Right, I have not got a PowerPoint for you. How do you put together a few slides for this great personality called Ramakrishna? So Omniben has created some slides in the past. We will put them on the Google Drive for your reference, and I'll also add some notes. But today Ramakrishna is going to be just a free-flowing talk because there's so much in my head that needs to come out. Ramakrishna is one who inspires me. So we'll start with an invocation to Ramakrishna, and we'll also continue with a very short invocation of the Holy Mother, Ma Sharda. Because without Ramakrishna, there is no Holy Mother. Without Holy Mother, there is no Ramakrishna. Stapakaya cha dharmasya sarva dharma swarupine avatar varishtaya Ramakrishna yate namaha. Now the Holy Mother. Om Janani Sharda Devi Ramakrishna Jagat Guru Pada Padme Trayo Shritva Pranamami Muhur Muhur. Jai Thakur. Right, so we're going to journey today. A great character called Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. So our journey starts on the 18th of February, 1836. A child is born in a little village called Kamarpukur in the Hooghly district of West Bengal, which is approximately 100 kilometers from Kolkata. The father's name is somebody called Khudiram Chattopadhyay, and mother's name is Chandramani Devi. And Kamarpukur, very tiny village, and this child is given the name Gadadhar. Does that mean anything to anybody? Gadadhar, one who yields the Gada. Straight away, you know that is another name for Vishnu. Okay, so this boy is given the name Gadadhar. Parents very poor, and there's a reason for their poverty as well, because they used to live in a little village called Dere, only a few miles from Kamalpukur, and Khudiram used to own about 50 acres of land. So he was a reasonably successful farmer. But there was a big landowner, and he got involved with some dodgy activities. It was a court case, and he asked Khudiram to lie for him in court, so that he could get off the charges, and Khudiram refused. He was a truthful character. He says, I cannot lie in court or for anybody. So through fraudulent activities, this landowner grabbed all the land from Khudiram, and they had to leave the village of Dere and move to Kamar Pukur, where one of his friends gave him a very small plot of land, which was enough to grow food just for his family to survive. So that is the reason why they were in poverty, but it just shows that the scene is being set for the arrival of this great character and all of the work he is supposed to carry out. So Khudiram once was on a yatra, on a pilgrimage, and he was sitting in a Vishnu Mandir in a place called Gaya, which today most of you will know is called Bodh Gaya. That is where the Buddha achieved Nirvana. As we got Vijay Bhai online today as well, so he might want to contribute as well. So Khudiram was praying in this Vishnu Mandir, and thereupon he saw vision. Vishnu's Murti came alive, came over to him and says, Khudiram, I'm going to come to you as your son. So here Vishnu is telling Khudiram that Vishnu himself is going to be born as his son. Chandramani Devi, when she was pregnant, had something very similar vision. She was once passing through by a shivling, and she saw this huge wave of light coming out of the shivling and enter a womb. So they both knew that the child is going to be divine. And even this was not one-off. Once Chandramani Devi was pregnant, both the parents had similar experiences. People say that when Gadadhar was little, an infant, he used to get these paranormal experiences, mystical experiences. People say it's difficult to say what an infant is going through, isn't it? Even today, you find a lot of children, they're very quiet when they're little, and then when they grow up to be menaces. But people believe he was having mystical experiences. Who are we to argue? But Gadadhar was growing up to be a handsome young boy, and his character, his personality was such that the whole village loved him. And this guy had a bit of a mischievous streak with him as well. And Kamar Pukur literally means the pond. So it's a village built around a pond. All the women used to go bathing in the pond, and Gadadhar with his friends used to have no problems walking around the pond whilst they were bathing, and the women obviously didn't like it. But he could not see why. In not a malicious or cheeky way, he just didn't see why people are so conscious about their bodies until his mother explained to him that what he was doing was wrong. And he said, oh, sorry, I went to apologize to him, so it won't happen again. Does this ring a bell with anybody in the past? This behavior? Yeah, baby Krishna in Gokul, Vrindavan. You can see Gadadhar is now growing up to be a little baby Krishna. This boy hated secular education. He did not like the idea of learning physics and chemistry and well, English was not taught then, but Hindi and Bengali was. He just kept bunking out of school. Did not like the idea of going to school at all. But one thing he did love is nature. He loved being out in nature, in the fields, in the jungles, and he had a gift for fine art. He was a very, very good artist. He would often be seen with his friends out in nature, in the fields, fruit gardens around the village. The one thing Gadadhar loved most was listening to dharmic stories. His mother used to tell him stories from the Ramayana, as both parents were deep devotees of Sri Ram. In Bengal, he's referred to as Ramchandra. So they were both devotees of Ramchandra and used to diligently listen to stories. And this boy had like an eidetic memory. He could just remember everything that he was being told. The other thing Gadadhar loved is in this village called Kamarpukur, there was a resting shelter visiting pilgrims. So when pilgrims went on yatra, on pilgrimages from North India towards Puri, which is today called Jagannath Puri, they would actually stop at this shelter and rest. And the villagers used to go and serve these pilgrims. Gadadhar used to love going there and listening to their stories and discourses and the debates. And again, he just loved listening to them. He could remember every word of what was being said. And not only that, but he took great pleasure in serving these pilgrims. But hey, being a child, getting away from school is not an option, is it? Less of an option now. So he attended school until the age of 12. And then he says, this is not for me. I'm not interested in education that is bread earning. He just was not interested. And the story goes on. First recorded event of his spiritual experience. He was about six years old, playing out in the fields with his friends, and he looked up the sky, and there were some very, very, very dark clouds, and below the clouds, he saw this ray of cranes flying and making their typical noises. And as he saw this scene of cranes against the black clouds, something triggered him, and he kind of hit ecstasy. He just fell to the ground, and all his friends thought he'd just gone unconscious and carried him home. But later he did say that he was fully conscious and aware of what was going on. If anything, he had hit the state of super consciousness. That was at the age of 6. So this boy started having experiences quite early in his life. When Gadadhar was 7 years old, tragedy struck the family. Gadadhar's father, Khudiram, passed away. And his elder brother, Ram Kumar, became head of family. Now, the age difference between his older siblings, he had 3 older siblings, and Gadadhar was quite vast, it was very big. So his oldest brother was called Ram Kumar, which ever helped me out. His second brother was called Rameshwar, and his sister was called Katyani. Now, Katyani, as you will all know, is another name for Goddess Durga. So again, very, very spiritual names they were given. So Ram Kumar became head of family, was still struggling to make ends meet with the family. And then came along the time for the Upanayan ceremony, the sacred thread ceremony. All boys are supposed to go through this, and Gadadhar was no exception. Now, anybody who's seen an Upanayan ceremony, the child after the event is given a stick with a little pot on it, and he's supposed to go and beg for alms. This marks the start of the celibate state of life, the start of acquiring wisdom. But within the Brahmin tradition, it was customary that the first alms would be given by another Brahmin. So you had to go and beg alms from another Brahmin. But Gadadhar was not having that. There was another woman in the village called Dhani, and she was of the Shudra class, and she was the midwife when Gadadhar was born, and she had become quite close to Gadadhar, and there was a lot of affection between the two, and he did promise Dhani that he would go and beg alms first from her. No can do. The family says that is just not done. You have to go and beg alms from another Brahmin. And Gadadhar says, no, I've promised this lady, Mother Dhani, and I have to go and beg from her. And the argument prevailed, and then he says, look, what is more important? Tradition and breaking promise, or keeping my promise and breaking tradition? He asked his brother, you tell me, which is more important? Now, should I not keep my promise? And Ramkar had to give in, and he went and begged for the first alms from his midwife mother, called Dhani. As time went on, the family's financial situation got really, really bad. They could not feed themselves. So oldest brother Ramkumar decided to go to Calcutta, where he ran a Sanskrit school, preparing young Brahmin boys on how to become priests. And he also became family priest for some of the families in Calcutta. And this continued. He did make enough money to feed himself and send some money to Kamarpukur for the rest of his family. So they just about made ends meet, just about. Here we take a bit of a digression now in the life of Ramakrishna. There was a very, very, very wealthy lady in Kolkata called Rani Roshmani. She was preparing, this, just to show you how wealthy she was preparing to take a huge entourage from Kolkata to Kashi, Varanasi for pilgrimage. She had hired 23 boats to take the whole entourage to Kashi for pilgrimage. And the night before they were supposed to leave, Rani Rashmani had a dream. In her dream came Goddess Kali. And Goddess Kali asked her to establish a mandir dedicated to her, which was subsequently established in a place called Dakshineshwar. And today it is called Dakshineshwar Kali Mandir in the Howrah area of Kolkata. This was not just a mandir, it's a huge complex. I highly, highly, highly recommend anybody visiting Kolkata or even India to do a special trip to Kolkata and visit this Dakshineshwar Kali Mandir. It is so inspiring. So this mandir was built. That trip to Kashi was cancelled because the mother, the divine mother, mother of the universe, had asked for this mandir to be built again. You can see the scene being set for Ramakrishna to establish Dharma. Now, probably became nobody, no Brahmin was prepared to be a priest at that mandir because it did not belong to Brahmins. It belonged to a Shudra, and they had difficulty finding a priest. And then somebody told, I'm going to throw in another name. Rani Rashmani had a son-in-law called Mathur Babu, who was looking after the complex. So Mathur Babu had heard about Ram Kumar, so he approached Ram Kumar and says, can you be the main priest in the mandir? Ram Kumar was quite happy to do that. Again, the scene being set for Gadadhar to get established. So he became the priest, and his family, he was reasonably well paid, so the situation got better. But then Gadadhar was doing very little apart from playing in nature in Kamarpukur. So Ram Kumar thought, if I bring my younger brother, he can become the assistant priest. And he came over to Kolkata at the Dakshineshwar Mandir and became the assistant. Once he was not carrying out the rituals, he did help with the decorating the deity Ma Kali and cleaning the mandir and all that. So things going on. Then, after a while, Ramakrishna's oldest brother, Ram Kumar, who was a priest, passed away. So now Gadadhar has been asked to take his place in the priest of the mandir. And Gadadhar says, I can't. I've never learned all the rituals. I said, well, you saw what your brother's doing, so you can just follow what he was doing. And Gadadhar says, okay, I've been sort of preparing the mandirs, and I've been sort of dressing the deities. One thing I will not do is I will not touch the jewelry that mother is wearing. So he suggested that his sister's son, a chap called Hriday, come along. So his nephew wasn't only a few years younger than him, not much difference between uncle and nephew, to come and help him along. So Hriday arrived. Hriday was quite a genuine young boy, but a bit greedy. He'd seen a lot of poverty, so he had visions of making lots of money. This didn't go well with Gadadhar, but he was there, he was helping out. So Gadadhar became the priest of the Dakshineshwar Kali Mandir. Now this boy, this man Gadadhar, did not carry out the puja as one would or a Pandit would normally do, or chanting all the sloks and all that. He just was not following the normal procedures. But Mathur Babu, something in him tweaked and says there's something special about this man Ramakrishna, Gadadhar. He was still called Gadadhar. There's something special about him. And he said, oh, I'm going to allow him to carry on as a priest. When the priestly duty started, he started thinking whilst he was doing the puja and, you know, the arti and all that. He thought, am I just worshipping a piece of stone, or is it the mother herself? And here started the quest, started the journey. Excuse me, folks. So, if the mother was for real and not just a stone, then she has to show herself to me. And the craving to see the mother intensified. He used to weep and he should cry like a child in front of the mother, saying, "Oh, mother, why will you not show yourself to me?" Now, nearby the Dakshineshwar Mandir, there was a jungle called the Panchavati. Today it's all developed, but then it was a jungle. And at night, he would actually go into the jungle and remove all his sacred threads and all that. And he would just pray and say, "Mother, you need to show yourself to me." And after six long years of weeping and crying and praying, Gadadhar decided, what is the point? If mother is not going to reveal herself to me, then what's the point in living? There's no point in living. So he decided, right, I'm going to end all this. So one day he pulled the sword out of the mother's hand and he was about to cut his head off. And in his own words, this is what he said. He said he saw light, bright light coming out of the mother in waves. Suddenly, he says, he saw the floor of the mandir disappeared. Then he said he saw the walls of the mandir began to spin and disappear. And this whole experience overwhelmed him, and he fell to the floor, appearing to be unconscious. All he kept saying is, "Oh, mother, 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 you are for real. Oh, mother, you are for real." And this lasted for about 3 days on the floor, and people just came to the mandir and said, this is a madman. He's just gone crazy. So you can see the first experience of mother, Kali mother, was that as Brahman, not in the form of mother. But then throughout his life, he continued to have visions of Mother Kali, sometimes as Brahman and sometimes as the mother herself. Now, he got to a stage where he could actually talk to her. Whenever felt like he would just go and talk to the mother, and she would talk back at him, and they would have conversations. Then Gadadhar started thinking, is mother the only way to get to God, or are there any other ways? So he asked the mother, saying, if there are any other ways of experiencing God, can you please grant me the wishes? And the mother says, "You got it, my child." That's hard though, you know, as people higher up grant. So what are the other pathways he experienced? And there's a number pathways. So randomly, different teachers started appearing on the scene. So he had an encounter with a Sufi preacher called Govinda Roy, and after practicing Sufism, and those of you who don't know, Sufism is a branch of Islam. And after 3 days of practicing Sufism, he experienced God the Sufi way. Then he came across a Christian minister called Shambhucharan Malik. And through the Christian way of worship, he soon had visions of Jesus. He had quite a few visions of Jesus. The first time Jesus came along, hugged him, and just disappeared into him. And this happened a few times. And then once Jesus came along, and Gadadhar says, "Ho, ho, ho, hang on. Who are you?" And Jesus says, "I am Jesus." And the funny thing is, if you look at Christianity today, theologians and historians are trying to find evidence that Jesus existed, and they can't find any. Here's Ramakrishna saying, "Yes, I have experienced the presence of Jesus myself." being in an intoxicated state all the time, his behavior was quite erratic. People still complain to Mathur Babu saying this is not right, but Mathur Babu says no, let him alone, let him continue the way he is. There should be a cat living in the temple, and Gadadhar often used to feed her the prasad that was prepared for the mother. And people think, are you crazy? This offering is made for the mother, and you are actually giving it to the cat. And Gadadhar says, what's the problem? Can't you see the mother in the cat as well? So he used to see the mother, he used to see God in this cat as well. So a lot of people say you should worship the mother through the cat. And that's fine. He used to say oneness in everything, which is the root of what the Hindu Dharma is, oneness in everything. Then the year 1861. Now, again, when you go to Dakshinesh, you'll see that where Ramakrishna's room is, it faces the banks of the river Ganga, the Ganges, and a lot of the boats that come to the area actually dock there. And there was this one occasion where Ramakrishna or Gadadhar was looking out, and he saw this woman coming off a boat, and he asked one of the chaps, saying, "That woman, like, do you see her? Can you ask her to come here?" And people are thinking, "Is this guy going? We know he's crazy, but what's going on with him? Normally, he doesn't even look at a woman, and he's asking to sort of meet this woman." And when this woman came over, her name was Bhairavi Brahmani. And Gadadhar said to her that the mother, goddess Kali, had already told him that she would be coming to her, and that he should accept her as his guru. And Bhairavi Brahmi also said that she had her own guru had asked her to come to Dakshineswar to actually teach Gadadhar the method of Tantra. Since she took her to Tantra, she was an expert in Tantra. She actually came to teach Gadadhar the Tantric practices. So in no time at all, he had finished all 64 major Tantric sadhanas. It took him only 3 days to master each one. Again, you can see 3 days. 3 days Sufism, 3 days Christianity, 3 days Tantra. And strangely, every time he took on a new practice, it was 3 days. Now, the tantric method is really focusing on worshiping of the divine in the form of Shakti, in the form of the mother goddess, liberating the body and mind and soul to have the unobstructed vision of the natural world created by divinity. Now, today, Tantra has got a bad reputation purely because all the fake babas that come through, and people think Tantra is all about sex and drugs and all that. No, Tantra is a very pure form of worshipping the Divine Mother. So Tantra is for a person who has reached the stage in that spiritual journey where everything looks the same, i.e. there's no difference between attraction and aversion. And the way Ramakrishna used to practice this is he'd go to the banks of the Ganga, and he'd have 2 pots. One of them he'd have coins of money, and one of them he'd have stones, and he'd actually throw a stone off, he'd throw a coin off, and throw it, and he said, I can't see any difference between the two. And once he'd gone to that stage, he had actually taken a vow that he would never, ever touch money again, or he wouldn't go anywhere near it. And we will see how he was tested by some of his disciples when we talk about Swami Vivekananda in about 2 weeks' time. Then came along another person. In 1865, a wandering monk called Totapuri arrived at Dakshineshwar and said to Gadadhar, he looked at Gadadhar and says, this young man seems suitable for high philosophy, to understand the Advaita system of meditation and hitting the highest level of samadhi. And Gadadhar said, no, I'm not interested. I already worship my mother, the deity. And however, Totapuri says, no, I'm going to teach you Advaita. So Gadadhar says, okay, let me go and ask my mother. Totapuri says, a grown-up man has to go and ask his mother. Maybe she's the mommy's boy. So he runs off into the mandir, asks the divine mother, saying, this man's come to teach me. And the mother said, Yes, I'm the one who sent him, brought him here. So he comes out of the mother and says, yes, mother says she's the one who sent you here. And Totapuri taught him the teachings of Advaita, which call for renunciation with the world dies, and accepting the presence of the formless, the unmanifest energy that supports the cosmos, which we call Brahman. Yeah. So under the guidance of Totapuri, he experienced the highest state of spiritual realization that we call samadhi, the complete absorption of mind, body, soul in divine consciousness. We are all striving together. Gadadhar did that in 3 days. Now, Totapuri asked him to sit, focus on the middle eye, and says, right, now shut off your mind and take all the distractions out. And every time he closed his eye and tried to focus, he goes, oh, I can't do it. Totapuri got to be frustrated. He said, what's the matter? He said, well, every time I close my eyes and focus on, all I see is the mother. She keeps coming up, and Totapuri says, cut that mother in half, and took a piece of glass and scratched his forehead and said, right, now go in. And in no time, Gadadhar had hit that state of samadhi, and he stayed there for 3 days. And even Totapuri got worried, saying, is this guy all right? And eventually, Totapuri had to bring him out of the samadhi. It's believed that it was Totapuri who gave him the name Ramakrishna. So he actually changed from Gadadhar to Ramakrishna with the name given by Totapuri. And Totapuri had also given him the title of Paramahamsa. Paramahamsa means the divine swan. Now, why? What's so special about the swan, you might ask? The swan is that one creature that will take milk into its beak, and then it has the skill of separating milk from water, and then water is discarded, and the milk it takes in as these nutrients. So Totapuri says this man has got the skills to separate what is right and what is wrong, what is real and what is apparent. So he gave the title Paramamsa. Now there's a bit of a humorous story that comes out as well. Totapuri, in the first time in his life, stayed in one place for more than a few days. He was there for 3 months. Once Totapuri suffered serious diarrhea, and after a few days, he said, what's the point of her having this body if it's always going to give me pain? He says, I'm going to kill myself. So one night he decided to walk into the Ganga and he said, I'm going to drown myself and give up this body. To his surprise, he kept walking and walking and walking and go to the center of the river, and the water still only got ankle high. And he's thinking, what's going on here? Why is the water going so low? And he came back and told Ramakrishna what happened. And Ramakrishna smiled and says, the mother's not ready to let you go yet. Even that was not enough for Ramakrishna. Then he actually started practicing various bhavas, the states of being of different Vaishnava movements, comments by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then he went to worship the image of Ram as a child, and he adopted the attitude of a mother, and he actually had visions of baby Ram. He would dress up in a sari and assume the role of gopis to experience their state when they were around Krishna, around in Gokul and Vrindavan, and he actually had first-hand experience of that as well. Soon this word started spreading, and people started coming to Dakshineshwar in huge numbers, seeking guidance and his blessings. And this continued for a while, but this state, sorry folks, we are still going to be another few minutes, maybe 10 minutes or so. I hope nobody minds. He had got to the state where he could go into deep samadhi and he could switch off all his nadis. Anybody who's study philosophy, yoga philosophy, will know that there's 5 different nadis that control all of our body: prana, apana, vyana, samana, udana. And Ramakrishna had the ability to switch all of them off, so his body would just switch off. Now, most of the time he went to this state, he was alone, but once some of his disciples and his devotees were there, and they thought he just became as still as a stone, as a mountain, and everybody said he was dead. They touched him and no pulse. There used to be another disciple, devotee called Dr. Mahendralal Sarkar. He is the physician who used to treat Ramakrishna. So he came with stethoscope and poked around and thought, this man's dead. And they were about to prepare for his funeral when there was another Ayurvedic doctor. He says, have you checked his scalp? Put your hand on it. Is it warm? When they put their hand on his scalp, is it warm? He says, no, he's not dead. He switched off his nadis except the Udana nadi, which goes from bottom to top. It is this nadi that carries some scars into the next life. And then somehow he switched all his other nadis back on with the Udana, and they said, what's all the fuss about? But he had the ability to do that, to just switch his body off, go to the higher state. As I say, Ramakrishna used to be in God intoxicated state all the time, and that made his behavior look erratic. So this guy, Mathur Babu and Hriday, he says, what do we need to do? We need to take him to a place, that brings him down to earth. Now, Mathur Babu was well known, a man of people and places. So he says, right, let's take him to a brothel, and we'll take him to and see how he works out. So Mathur Babu tells the brothel owners, I'm bringing a very important person. I'm actually got a very good lady for him. So they had this lady called Lakshmi Bai, really dressed up in sari and very good clothes, and they brought him in and they said, do you want to go upstairs? And Ramakrishna, he went upstairs, he saw this woman and bowed and said, oh, mother, you are here too. He just saw the mother in this woman. Then this woman said to Mathur Babu, saying, what are you doing bringing such a holy person to me? Are you trying to get me to commit sin? But that was the state. He saw the mother in everything. Now, is God intoxicated state? As I said, makes his behavior appear very erratic, although he was known for him to. People started saying, this guy's mad, he's gone mad. And the news got to Kamar Pukur. So the family, being a typical Hindu family, says, we know what we need to do. We'll get him married. So Ramakrishna did not object to getting married. Instead, what did he do? He says there's this little girl in the next village called Jirambati. And he says she's the right bride, and pointed to a 6-year-old girl called Sharda, also known as Sharda Devi, and was chosen for him. And Ramakrishna at this stage was 23 years old. The wedding took place in 1859, and little Sharda was later known as Sharda Devi, and many people call her the Holy Mother as well. You can see her image behind me. She sits behind me because she guides me. And whenever I do something wrong, she gives me a kick up the backside, saying, hey, pull yourself together. Now, marriage were always arranged between fathers or the elder male members. So when this marriage was arranged, Sarda's mother was a bit disappointed. She knew what Ramakrishna was like. He was an ascetic. She says, there'll be nobody to call my daughter mother. And Ramakrishna kind of knew what she said, and she said, don't worry. In time, the whole world will call her mother. And today, she's known as the Holy Mother, Ma Sharda. And this, in the early days, little Sharda, she stayed with her parents in Charambati. Occasionally, she'd go and visit her in-laws. But when she got to the age of 17, 18 years old, she went to live in Dakshineshwar with Ramakrishna. So On the opposite end of the form courtyard is a little room called the Nahabat, opposite to where Ramakrishna's mission was. And that is where the mother lived. Their relationship was not physical, it was purely spiritual. However, as a dutiful wife, she diligently served her husband, cooking for her, taking her meals. But Ramakrishna knew that Ma Sharda was a highly spiritually evolved person, gave her due respect, and also trained her in spiritual matters. If anything, she became her first disciples. Ramakrishna saw the divinity in Sharda Devi, and he worshipped her. Once he performed what we call the Sodashi Puja on Sharda Devi. Now, Sodashi, for some of you knows, she's Sodashi is the name of a goddess worshipped on the third day of Navratri in Bengal. So Ramakrishna started worshipping Sharda Devi. He took her to the highest level of samadhi, and once she was at the highest level of samadhi, he actually raised himself to the same level. And this is something I said, remember when we talked about worship, saying here the worshipper and the worshipped became one. That is the state that we are trying to get to. The worshipped and the worshipper wants to become one. As I say, the mother is revered to the, I could spend days and days and days talking to mother. Now, one of the things that the syllabus also requires us to do is to talk about his encounter with Narendranath Datta, Swami Vivekananda. We won't talk about that today, but we'll talk about that when we talk about Swami Vivekananda. That is one interesting episode as well, the encounter of the two together. At some point, Ramakrishna developed throat cancer, and then his disciples and devotees, they come rented a property called Koshipur House in North Kolkata, and he was moved there and gave up his priesthood at the Dakshineshwar Mandir. Now, a few days before he passed away, as I say, he suffered throat cancer, and he really was in pain. And Narendranath Vivekananda, looking at his pain, he just thought about this. How can somebody so spiritual be going through so much pain? And Ramakrishna saw that, again showing his divinity. He says, Naren, you still have doubts in your mind? Know this one thing, that the Rama who lived in the Treta Yuga was the same as Krishna who lived in the Dwapar Yuga. It's the same as living in this body of Ramakrishna today. So he kind of confirmed that he was an avatar. He was an avatar of Vishnu. Now, on the 1st of January 1886, Ramakrishna was moved to Koshipur House, as I said earlier. Sometime in the afternoon, he was feeling a bit better, so he thought, I'll take a stroll down. And when he went to the stroll, there's a mango tree, and that's still there today. There was quite a few of his household disciples and devotees and standing there. And one of them was a man of the world, chap called Girish Chandra Ghosh, but he had become a strong devotee, disciple of Ramakrishna. So Ramakrishna walks and he says, Girish, what are you talking about me? What are you saying about me? Now, Girish always kept telling people that Ramakrishna was an avatar, but Girish folded arms, he dropped on his knees and he said, the Valmiki who could not describe Ram completely, the Vyas who could not describe Krishna completely, who am I to talk about you? And as soon as he said that, you could see Ramakrishna became quite strong. He stood up taut and he started blessing everybody, and everybody was there. He just kept saying one word, to me Chaitanya ho, to me Chaitanya ho, and he kept touching them. And it is said that all the wishes of the people who were there when we touched came to reality. Some wanted to see the their own Ishta as Hanuman or Krishna, and he actually shows himself as that. And as human beings, there was one chap called Upendra Babu who asked for wealth, and he was given wealth as well. So it is called the Kalpataru Divas. If you remember when we talked about the Samudra Manthan, the churning of the ocean, we talked about this Kalpataru Vriksh that come out, the wish-fulfilling tree. So here it is believed that Ramakrishna fulfilled the wishes and the desires of his devotees, so it's called the Kalpataru Divas. Even today, the 1st of January is big. If you go to Kashipur House, people start queuing up from midnight for his darshans and hoping that something might happen to them as well. So Ramakrishna left his body on the 16th of August, 1886 at Kashipur House. And that's where his funeral took place. And I think his ashes still remain today in a place called Bedouin in Kolkata. So what are the key ideas that Ramakrishna has brought us? Oneness of all existence. Another one, the divinity of all life. The unity with God. God and us, we're not separate. This is the man who brought all the different pathways together. He not only reconciled the different Hindu traditions, Advait, you had the Vaishnavas and the Shaktas and the Shaivas, but he also said every religion leads to the same destination, to the same absolute truth. So, strengths. His message was that all religions have to be experiential. We can talk about it as much as you like, but until you experience the divine, all you're doing is playing mental gymnastics, nothing more. He's one who experienced both Dvait and Advait in the form of highest form of Samadhi, and also through Mother Goddess, and also the idea of Ram and Krishna and all that. Now, some people say that this is some of his weaknesses. He did not start a sectarian movement, so his message does not get widely publicized. People who know of him become devoted to him. Although people say he did not go out to promote his vision, that is not strictly true. He was an avatar. Avatar always comes with a general, don't we? And he had a general called Vivekananda, this fireball which he trained and threw out to the West. And you will see the impact Vivekananda made to the West. So to an extent, his vision is being promoted. So that comes to the end of our talk on Ramakrishna. Any comments, topic, questions? I know it's a lot to take in, but very, very, very exciting topic to discuss. Questions, comments?
How was he an influencer like Gandhiji and Ram Mohan and Swami Dayananda Saraswati? What was
Right. Like I said, you've heard the concept of Nar Narayan within Hindu tradition, haven't you?
Yeah.
When you have a Narayan take avatar, there always a Nar who comes with him. So in terms of Ramakrishna, who was the Nar who came with him? His general was Swami Vivekananda. So that is how he promoted his ideas, through the idea of Swami Vivekananda and all these other disciples.
Okay.
And these were quite powerful disciples.
So they were more.
In fact, I'll tell you another one. The first president of the Ramakrishna order, somebody called Swami Brahmanand. He used to spend most of his time in meditation. And Ramakrishna once said, you could actually see people's previous lives and future lives. And he used to say Swami Brahmanand was Arjun during Krishna's time, and he was involved in the war of the Mahabharata. So he used to say Swami Brahmanand had actually done all his rajasic or rajas activities during the Krishna time. So now he was finishing off his sattvic activities before moksha. Sorry, I digressed there, didn't I?
No,
like I said, I get so excited when you talk about Ramakrishna.
Yeah, so he was more an influencer in
as you say, more of a oneness and all
Oneness,
religions are
yes.
one, opposed to it being a movement like the others did in terms of bringing change in way.
No, he
Well-
did, in a sense, but that was through Vivekananda, because the Ramakrishna mission exists today, and they do promote the vision of and yeah, when we talk about Swami Vivekananda, you will see a lot of the issues they took up. You know, the idea of girls' education and women's empowerment and all that. So they did happen.
Okay. But he was more of a religious movement.
Yes,
Okay. Thank you.
but his experience and teachings were reforming, definitely. Any other questions, comments? Oh, there's a lot to take in there, one or a hell of a lot. Right, couple of things before we finish then. Next week we start on scriptures, so we'll do an introduction to Hindu scriptures. And Ben, you're still there? She'll do an introduction to the Bhagavad Gita. And then we're supposed to start, we're supposed to cover chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita. So next we'll finish off with chanting. So if you can have your copies of the Bhagavad Gita handy, if you can, chapter 3 open. If not, then if you can have your support document open, all the slokas are in there for chapter 3. So we'll actually do a bit of chanting as well. I have stolen a clip from a website called Learn Gita, where they have lead and follow. So there's this woman who will lead and then we'll actually follow together. Okay. Secondly, perhaps more important for those who are sitting for the exams, before Christmas, I did set 2 questions for people to attempt. I have not seen anybody, any answers come back. I don't know whether any other teachers have. Nobody has mentioned anything, but they are on the Google Drive if anybody wants to attempt them. And lastly, again, nothing to do with what we're doing here. Some of you may be aware, some of you not. There's a Ramakrishna mission in a place called Bone End. That's just off the M40, junction 4 of the M40. Now they have regular lectures and they also have a WhatsApp group where they post some very good stuff and they also put details of lectures. So if anybody wants to join this WhatsApp group, please send me a message, your name and phone number, and I'll put you on the group. In the summer, we will try to arrange a visit to the Ramakrishna mission as well in Bone End, and we'll ask Swami Sarvasthanand, who is the leading minister at that, to actually give us some time as well if anybody's got any questions to ask. Okay? Any comments, questions before we finish?
Just one last one. You
Yes.
mentioned about the questions that that you've set. How do
Yes.
we send them to you? Do we send them to you by email?
Yes,
Once-
yes. So let me just put my email address now if you want to take it. Can you tell me when you've picked it up on the chat? That's my email address. No, I'll send it to somebody.
Yeah, it hasn't come through yet.
No, it's going to Jessica. I've been communicating with her. Everyone. Okay, that should have gone now. That should be in the chat.
Krishna Bhai, just a quick reminder.
Yes,
India's Republic Day today. So
yes.
happy Republic Day to all those who are still connected with India.
Yep, all right, thank you. Yeah. Okay, we'll finish off with a short prayer. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah. Om Sarve Santu Niramayah. Om Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu. Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhave. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May all be happy. May all be healthy. May all enjoy prosperity. May no one suffer. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And Simeon, don't stop the meeting yet. Just see what's there's quite a few chats, have they?
Questions? Do you want to send it again, Krishna Bhai?
Sorry?
The two questions. There's an ask to resend the
They
question.
are on the Google Drive. I'll send you the link.
I'll put back the link on the WhatsApp chat.
Yes, please.
And I think Vijay had answered the question about the exams. So the official Cambridge deadline is the 16th of February, but many centers have earlier deadlines. So please contact your local center. And that's it.
Gosh, overrun quite a bit today, haven't we? Apologies about that, everybody.
Okay.
Like
So
I
I've
said,
put the notes for Gandhi, and there is 3 questions in the notes at the end for Gandhi. You can do that and send it to Krishna Bhai too. It's for those of you all who want to do the Gandhi question.
seriously, you want me to answer again the question, Simeon?
Oh, it'll be a
You know what I think of Gandhi.
I know, but it'll be very factual.
I have one word for him, traitor.
But we have to be very factual. So the autobiography bit is where that Avni Ben had shared, and that's what the notes I used to put to this presentation. So next week we start how many words?
Sorry, can you expand? I'm not
Mandy,
quite
do
sure
you
what
want
you're
to
asking.
say how many words? You can unmute. I'm gonna stop the video YouTube, okay? Let me stop.
Right. How many words in what way?